And we're back with Roland's S-1, and today we're going to look at the sequencer, we're going to play with it, and we're going to have a little bit of fun with some other devices, so please stick around. Hello Internet, Chris Klein here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. And yeah, we're back with the S1. It's a lot of fun. We want to look at the sequencer today. We want to go ahead and get these things hooked up and listen to some sounds and geek out with Earthquaker and the Roland TR-06, the boutique dramatic 606, if you will. Before we do that, I would like to ask that you subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to check out our other channels, piano, guitar, B&O. We've got a lot of content for you. We want to keep you informed. We want to make sure that you're making the right decisions or the best decisions that you can with the information that we give you. So, I'm going to stop talking. We're going to jump right into having some fun with these devices, and we're going to explore the sequencer on here. So here we are, Roland's S1, which they've also labeled the tweak synth. I feel a little weird saying that because of the association of that word tweak, but whatever. I'm an old fart. And then we have the Dramatics TR-06, which of course is modeled after the 606 from the early 80s. It was the sibling to the 303, the bass line, which of course became more famous. But you can hear the 606 on all kinds of tracks by Aphex Twin and Drexciya, so on and so forth. There's quite a few people that still use it. I still use mine at home all the time. And then I have the Earthquaker devices, their reissue of the Disaster Transport with custom artwork. They redid the circuit a little bit. It's a little cleaner. The LFO or the modulation on here is a little different as well. Different settings. It just is a little nicer sounding than the original. However, the original is still a killer pedal if you happen to have one. I think only 500 of these were made. I was lucky to get my hands on one. So I'm going to quit talking. Let's start moving into the equipment. The gear. We love the gear. As I stated before, the S1 has a 64-track sequencer. You also have 64 presets. For this demo, we're only going to be using 16 steps as opposed to, did I say 64 tracks? I meant 64 steps. We're only going to be using 16 steps for this demo. There's no point in going into full-on overkill. We're not going to talk about the ARP on here. We're going to stay away from that. We all know what they do. So let's start looking at the sequencer and how it works. As you can see, I have these two devices, the S1 and the TR-06 are synced. I have the sync out of the S1 feeding the trigger in on the Dramatics on the 06 so that they are locked together. So I'm going to go ahead and press play on here. We can hear what sequences is in here. It is probably the very first preset. And that's what it is. And we don't want to do this. We want to have our own sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and just press play again, which will stop the transport. Now, as I said before in the first video, there's lots of menu diving. These keys serve different purposes. Not only do you have a chromatic keyboard, but these are also your steps in your sequence. If I hold down Shift, things will light up. And what we want to do is we want to get rid of the sequence. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to come down here to 11, and we're going to clear out the sequence, and then here it says enter, and so now there should be nothing programmed, right? Pretty easy. Now what we want to do is we want to establish how many steps we have in the sequence. So once again, I'm going to hold down Shift. Right here it says last, so last step. I'm going to use this encoder. Before I had mentioned that this encoder will serve different purposes. In this case, it's going to determine or let us plug in how many steps we want. We only want to have 16. So there we go. Exit. And so now when we press play, it should cycle back to 1 as soon as it goes past 16. In other words, we're not going to wait for 3 more invisible passes for it to cycle back to 1. So we can record in real time, but I'm going to go ahead and do it in step mode. It's a little easier, especially since we don't have a drum pattern. If this was just flying by the seat of its pants, we'd be kind of guessing what's happening with the tempo. So let's go ahead and go into step mode. Remember, I can enter more than one note per step if I want to. This is a 4-voice synth, so we can have chords on here. Can't do that on a real SH-101. It's going to be rather difficult. You need to have 4 SH-101s, you need to be syncing and doing all kinds of stuff, and now you're out $8,000 as opposed to about $199. So let's go ahead and sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and press record. Let's go ahead and bring it back to step 1. And here we go. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6. Okay, let's take it out of step mode. And there is our sequence. We're at 130 BPM. Then of course, now that we're in playback mode, we can go ahead and now we can also record these moves as well, which is nice. It does have a motion recorder. All right. So now we have our sequence in. Very, very simple, right? So let's go ahead and get a drum sequence happening. So for those of you that have ever programmed a 606 or a TR-06, it's not terribly difficult. Works like a lot of Roland's pattern sequencer, pattern drum machines. And so I already have my close hi-hat selected, so I'm going to go ahead and choose, let's go into here. Now that I have that in, I can go ahead and I can enter in other parts using the tap button. Let's do that much better. Let's get our kick drum in there. And then our snare drum. Timing's a little off, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and get our accent in there. Cymbal. Go ahead and turn that down a little bit. Now, the thing that's really cool about the TR-06, the boutique versions, we have this drive. So we're going to add a little bit of crunch to it. And let's go ahead and start them both together. Let's try that again. With the cutoff and the resonance. Add a little bit of noise. And the disaster transport. There we go. Pretty darn simple. But we can also manipulate the sequence a little bit more. And the way that we would do that, and some of the functionality that we have, is by changing notes, adding randomness to each step. We can add ratchets to each step with different types of patterns for the ratchets. So to make this happen, what we would do is go into step mode like that, and then I'm going to hold down. Well, let's do our first step, and then I'm going to press the D motion, which is going to change the functionality. Like that's the ratchet right there. So let's go ahead and turn the ratchet up, and then I'm going to go ahead, press play. And you can see how the ratchet is changing. And I can choose a different step, do the same thing. And then let's change the probability. So there's the probability. So it's a 100% chance that it's going to fire. Let's take it down to 50. also change, let's a little bit. We can also change the gate time. So let's go ahead and look at step 2, for instance. There's the gate. So we're already changing the feel of our sequence. It's not terribly difficult. Fantastic bass machine. Add a little bit of LFO to detune it a little bit. Now I'm not using the effects on here today because I wanted to use this and explore this. Now we're going to take it out of step mode. Now we can also, in step mode, we can go back in and change the note value, for instance, just by turning this. So we went sharp, just a half step, right? And we can also adjust the velocity. So we can add a little more movement, if you will, into our sequence. So if we do this, oops, there we go, velocity. So now if I go into record mode again, well, we can take it out of step mode. We can start manipulating other parameters on here. And now we're getting even more movement into our sequence. So all I was doing there was changing the range or the octave. So we've just done quite a bit in a very, very short period of time. And then of course we can also start plugging in notes in again, excuse me, as well. There's a lot of crazy information in there right now. But there you have it. Real quick bang-up job. Not trying to create a hit here, just want to give you an idea how far you can take these devices. And hopefully you're going to maybe pick one of these up, the S1, and start digging in yourself because it's super powerful. The battery is really convenient. Put it in your backpack, go to town, have fun all the time. And there you have it, another trip with the S1. Lots of fun playing with these devices, and as I said during the demo, I am going to take everything that I did here today home. I'm going to mix it. I'm going to incorporate some UAD plugins as well as run everything through my little vintage Neve sidecar console just to give it a little more warmth and so you can hear a little more of what we can get out of these devices as well. So, didn't get into everything on here. The arpeggiator, we didn't touch that because I think we all kind of know what they do. It is powerful, but I think we all get it at this point. And I'm not trying to discredit the power of that functionality. I think the sequencer is a little more important because we can do a little more with it at the end of the day. So with that being said, I really hope you love this. At its price point, it's so darn powerful. And, there's more that it can do, and I'm going to say probably 27 more times. So let's just go ahead and stop. I want to thank you for sticking around and listening to this demo, getting a better idea of what the sequencer can do, and I hope to see you again. If you're going to leave comments down below, again, let's be nice, let's be civil. We need more civility in the world. Let's be sweet and kind to each other. We can certainly all use more of that right now. And let's keep on creating. If you're creating your own productions, share them down in the comments. Let's let other people know what you're doing. Like, we can build a really, really amazing, robust community here if we use these tools right. So once again, Chris Klein, Alamo Music Center in San Antonio. Thank you so much for sticking around, and I will see you again.